Hey everyone, it's Jason from Ronin bodyboards. Just gonna wait and see if anybody starts showing up in here. Kind of doing this from the garage this time instead of upstairs. In the future I might show some of the stuff that in areas that I work in, but for now I'm just down here in the shop. Thought it might be a good place to start. My shop is basically my garage at the house that I live in, so. Man, we get some people in here. Hopefully some people start showing up. Yeah, so my name is Jason. I shape all the boards at Ronin Bodyboards. I'm the only person you really ever talk to. If you send an email or direct message, there's nobody else that does anything with Ronin except for me. I do it all. I'm the person you talk to when you send an email, and I'm the person that makes the board, start to finish, pack it, ship it. I do it all. So it's a lot for one person. I know, there's only a few people out there that really do it all by themselves. It really is a lot of work. I don't think people realize. But anyway, hopefully some people start showing up and I won't have to talk to myself. Oh, man. Yep. Happy 3-day weekend to everybody. I know it's a 3-day weekend out there, and a lot of people are traveling or doing stuff too. So maybe that's part of it. And I realize I haven't done a lot on YouTube, but I'm hoping this is something I can start doing on the regular, so we can cover various topics and board features, construction features. I really think that people have a lot of questions about what this does versus that, or what this core does versus that. So I'm hoping that through some of these chats we can answer some questions on a scale where I'm not answering it to individual people. I can answer it to multiple people at one time, and that'll help me with some of the customer service that I have to deal with. And that really is a lot of the work with what I do, is just trying to figure out what people want in the board. Everyone is unique and everyone's different and custom. So there's no models. I don't make model boards. That's never something that's been my interest of mine. I know that's a lot of other companies are structured. They're out there to make model boards and then try to sell a particular model to the masses. And that's the biggest sales part of the pie, is those types of situations where we're going to mass produce this model and then sell it to whoever's interested in that. And then you do get consistency that way. I understand there's something with that, but not the way I want to do my business. I want to do really cool one-off custom boards for individual people and stoke individual people out. And I mean, I've always ridden custom boards, so I only have like maybe 2 stock kind of boards in my quiver. Everything else has been custom made over the years, either by me or by some other shapers. So I am my own customer. I understand that there's people out there that really want a custom product, and you can't get something really cool and unique off the shelf a lot of the time. So gosh, I sure hope people start showing up. We'll see what happens here. Talking to myself is kind of okay. I mean, I can still do this on a level where I can get some knowledge out there to people, and but it sure would be nice to have some questions from people so I can kind of bounce things back and forth. Seems like the mic level's working okay. Yeah, so you can see some of the various stamps that are, back up here behind me. I have a little collage of things that I've been kind of doing over the years and putting them up there. All right, let's see. It's the first time I've really tried to do it in a live situation. Sure hope I'm doing everything right. Yeah, just checking to make sure I'm couple other devices I had sitting right next to me. So, man, 5 minutes in. I mean, I might hang out for a while and hopefully people show up. My plan is to kind of maybe go for an hour on these type of things. It's just my rough plan. I mean, if I'm sitting here talking to myself for an hour, I might not do it for quite that long. But if people start showing up, I could do this for an hour long. I kind of set aside that block of time. So, you know, until people start showing up, I don't know how much talking I'm going to do to myself. So I'm going to check here, make sure everything's streaming all right. Hey there, Brazil in the house. That's cool. All right, we got a human. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. Let me know if you got any questions. I'm just sitting here by myself, hoping that somebody starts dropping some questions and we can get some conversation going. Hey, Matthew. Yeah, I can definitely talk about stringers. You know, a single stringer is pretty standard in most boards. I use a 3/4 inch epoxy fiberglass tube for my stringers. That's my standard stringer. Hey, Russ. Yeah, I did work at tubes. Somebody just asked that. But okay, so as far as orientation goes for stringers, a single stringer is pretty standard. And you think about that, and that when you go to flex a board, what happens is you pull up on the nose corner and a board radially flexes around that center stringer. So, you know, when you start getting into multi-stringers, it really does affect how the board flexes around those stringers. So, you know, there's all kinds of different various stringer configurations. I've done a lot of crazy stuff, which is cool. I really think it can affect how a board feels and flexes. So, single stringer is going to radially flex. A double stringer, depending on where those stringers are located within the board, it can really change on like how stiff it is underneath your elbows. I usually try to keep my double multi-stringer stuff on my channel ribs. So you notice like a lot of my boards are multi-channel boards that have ribs throughout the bottom. Stringers are usually located on those ribs at some place. I really try to put them there because it's the thickest part of the board as well, because you got the channels that are kind of taking some mass out of the board, and to be able to get the stringer through the hole, it really is good to kind of line it up with the channel rib. And then you got like Trident stringer systems that are like a short stringer to a long stringer to a short stringer. So what that does is it has like a single stringer feel in the front part of the board where it's still kind of flexy around the center, but in the back it almost feels like a triple stringer, and that makes for a really stiff tail area. So you get kind of almost the best of both worlds that way. You get a really flexy kind of nose and then a stiffer tail. Then you can get into all the V setups where those are angled stringers. Instead of them going straight and being parallel with the center line, what they do is they angle either from the nose like this, or they angle in the opposite direction where it goes from like this through the board. So, and obviously you stop and think about how that's going to flex. Like if you have a stringer like this, you're going to still have flexier nose corners and then stiffer in the tail corners, but you're going to get this weird area in the tail that still is a little bit flexy. So I've had quite a few boards in the old days. A lot of my older tubes boards were V stringers like this. I really like the setup. It really is a good setup, especially because you get that flexy nose, but you really get a stiffer tail corner. And my feeling always was when you go and they're leaning on it and you're pulling up on the opposite corner, what you're doing is you're transferring that energy back to the opposite point of the tail. So what it does is in my mind, I always was like, oh, geez, that's the most efficient way to transfer the energy from this point of the nose to the opposite point of the tail. So it really is a good stiff along that axis that you're really kind of flexing the board on. I know a lot of DK guys like it in the opposite direction. And what that does is it really, when you go to get up on your knee on one side, your leg almost lines up with that angle of the stringer if they're set this way. And what it does is it really makes for a flexy tail corner on the outside of that in the back half of the board. But you still get a really nice flex through the front part of the board too, because there's nothing in the center part. So those are some of the basic stringer combinations. And then obviously there's different diameters of stringers as well. So all that stuff can play into the flex of a board. So it just depends on what you want and what you're curious about. I can do just about anything as far as stringers go. So I hope that helps with the stringer talk and some stringer knowledge there. North Carolina bodyboarders, koozie. I don't know where Andrew's at. He said he was going to maybe make it. Andrew runs the North Carolina bodyboarders pages on Instagram and whatnot. Good friend of mine. We chat all the time, and he's the only guy shaping boards on the East Coast. So if you want to follow him, he's like I said, he's a good friend, and we kind of tag team some orders on materials and stuff over the last year or so. I've really been trying to help him out because it's not easy to get this thing going, and he's the only guy on the East Coast making boards, so that's pretty cool. His board brand's called Anthem. He's just barely getting that off the ground, but he's been doing a lot of stuff on his own personal page. So you guys might want to look into that on Instagram. It's pretty cool follow. Andrew's a great guy. Yep. So let me know if there's any other questions. I'm just sitting here. Yeah, you're welcome, Matthew. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. I know there's a lot of people that are curious about stringers, so if I can kind of spread some knowledge, that's a good thing. Okay, yeah. Russell's got a question about slick rails. I've only made really one board that has like bottom slick on the outside of the rails. It really is a kind of a delicate process, and I rode the board. I made one. I'm not remember what number it was. It was an all white board, V-tail. I want to say it had a double concave or single to double concave or something like that on it, but a V-tail, kind of more of a traditional prone shape. Anyway. I rode that board for, 4 or 5 sessions, and I passed it down the line. I know it's gone to a few different guys here in California. We kind of just passed the board around. I'm not even sure exactly where it's at right now. But to me, I didn't notice a whole lot of difference as far as performance goes. It made maybe a little, it's definitely makes a stiffer rail. It's having that slick along the rails really makes maybe I don't know. Have you guys seen the Firewire surfboards where they have the stringer systems kind of almost built into the rail? It kind of almost gives that kind of a feel where I think you get some stiffness in the rails. Now, as far as it being faster, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of subjective. I don't even know that it makes a board faster just having slick pieces on the rail. The problem with that is that it's super delicate. I know that there has been some DLAM issues and stuff with guys in the past trying to do those slick rails, and it's not an easy process too. And not to mention, it's a little bit of a wasteful process. You have to really cut the rail pieces that you go and put on the board. You can't cut them just in like a square, rectangular type of piece like you'd normally do a normal rail, because you can flex those pieces as you're putting them on. A slick rail, when you go to put it on, you really have to cut it almost in the profile and a little bit of an arc in the rail. And you think you got to cut that out of a big sheet. And then there's a lot of drop that happens in that. And you really almost have to use like a quarter to a half of a bottom slick. You have to cut that all up just for the outer rail. So I kind of stay away from it just because it's not the greatest. I don't think you don't get the performance benefit out of it for what you're losing with the material. I think there's better things you can do with the rails than slick rails. The board rode great, though. I definitely had a few sessions on it. I had nothing bad to say about how it rode. It went fine. And I know some other people have ridden it, and they said they liked it too. So, but yeah, I'm not too hip on the process just because it's wasteful when it comes to the bottom slick material. Bottom slick is so hard to come by in the United States. Most of it's not even made here anymore. It all comes from overseas. So every bottom slick you get is super valuable. It's so hard to come by. You guys, let me know if there's any other questions or you got any other things you want to talk about. I did get in the water this afternoon. I try to go a lot. I'm still actively in the water a lot. I surf a lot. Hey, Matthew. You said fastest design that I could make for our waves on the Central Coast. Well, our waves here on the Central Coast, for starters, is the water temperature. That's a huge factor. It's really cold here versus Southern California. You'd be surprised. Most of the guys come up from Southern California, they're like, "Oh my gosh, the water's so cold here." Sometimes it's even colder here in Morro Bay than it is in like Santa Cruz. There's like this weird jetty thing that happens, and the water really never gets out of the 50s here unless there's some type of a south swell. So as far as what's fast, okay, well, fast is kind of subjective. I've always believed that speed comes from the wave. You can't go any faster than what the wave's going to push you. So what a board needs to do is be able to handle the speed without losing performance or without losing control. So it's a balance of speed and control. And if you get those things together, then speed isn't an issue. Speed's easy once you have a board that can handle the speed. What's the worst is you get a nice big, well overhead wave, and you drop in on you going super fast, and you don't have the control you need to handle the speed. So I really feel that the modern channel designs, I've been experimenting with them for years now. I really think the modern multi-channel designs track your direction and can handle the speed of a bigger wave. I mean, you're never going to go fast on a small wave. I mean, sure, if you have a long board, you can go fast on a small wave. You go faster than you would on a short board if you're stand-up surfing. But when you're bodyboarding, I mean, an inch or two is really going to make a difference on speed, a little bit, but it's really more about how much that wave can push you and how fast you can go on it. So as far as a board being able to handle speed, really multi-channel designs and tail designs that also are integrated with how the channels work. It's a cohesive thing these days, and I really wish that more brands would start thinking about that a little bit more. They just throw cookie cutter tails on boards, but they have all these modern channels on them, and I think that over time, hopefully, people can start coming up with cool tail designs that are cohesive with the channel designs. That's kind of what the scallop tail thing does. Is that the scoops on the tail line up with the ribs on the bottom of the board. So it's kind of a cohesive design. And so what that does is it allows you to track your direction, and you don't side slip near as much. And the tails bite in when you go and sink back on the tail. It will bite and it won't side slip like a clip crescent or a bat or anything like that. It really just grabs when you sit back on the tail. Central Coast waves, definitely, like I said, get back to the cold thing. It gets back to stringers and flex and how you like your board to feel. When I'm at home, I ride a single stringer slick mesh board because that's enough reinforcement for the colder waters. Like when I go to Hawaii or something like that, I like to have a little bit more volume in my board because I'm not wearing a big thick wetsuit that gives me a bunch of buoyancy, and I like to stiffen up my board with at least another stringer. I like to double stringer boards minimum when I go to Hawaii. Just one stringer is just not enough in Hawaii. The boards here are noodles. For me, I need a lid. I'll crease a board real fast, a single stringer board. I have multiple boards that I've taken to Hawaii that were single stringer that they just come back creased, just because you lean into them and way harder over in Hawaii, and the water's warmer and the board's flex. You end up with more creasing issues. Durability of scallop tails, sure. I mean, well, they are a little bit more delicate than a clip crescent. A clip crescent is, let's all face it, clip crescents were built for durability, not performance. That's why they are around, is because they're a durable tail and they can take the impacts. Like say if you're in a shore break and you lose your board and you just in the full wipeout and your board goes over the falls and it goes into the sand bottom because it's real shallow. Well, if it's a clip crescent and it hits that tail corner, obviously it can handle the impact versus something that has a point on the tail. So yeah, you got to be conscious of that tail corner, and and you wouldn't want to store it on the tail either. I always like to store my boards on their noses, not on their tails, because you just have more bearing area when you're storing your board. I think really wish that more people were kind of knowledge about that. So you really need to store your board either flat or on the nose, not on the tail, because you'll lead to all kinds of those. Because when you have that point, you just stick your board down, it's going to crush that point. And over time, that will lead to a tail corner delamming. Same thing with it goes over the falls in a short pound situation. That's just what it is. If it hits on that tail corner, you might have some delam issues. But it's one of those things. It's a performance thing. It's going to happen. You might lose your board over the falls and it might delam, but that board while you're riding, it's going to perform better and hold its line and not side slip out like a clip crescent would. So yeah, they're delicate. Same thing with like a V tail or any kind of tail that comes to a point like that instead of a clip. You got to worry about those corners and how they can delam. And we've all seen plenty of old boards that have delam tail corners because people store them on their tails. So, or you slam it down in the parking lot because you just saw a good set while you're like getting all excited. How many times have you been in the parking lot and looked over and seen a guy just like banging his board down on the tail while he's looking out at the surf? I've seen it so many times. I'm just like, oh my God, what is he doing to his board? So I would hate to see that happen to one of my tails. Yeah, keep the questions coming, guys. If you got any other things, let me know. I mean, I'm like I said, I want to do this for at least another half hour or so if people can keep the chat going. So, yeah, I went out surfing this afternoon. It was, I don't know, maybe chest high or so. I can walk to the surf here from my house, so everybody can hear me fine. I don't know. I mean, it looks like I got a good mic level, so I can't really tell until I watch it back later. But it looks like everything's fine. Where are you going on my next surf trip? Well, I try to make it to Hawaii every winter. I probably Hawaii. I'm probably either going to Maui or Oahu coming. Thanks, Russ. Yeah, Hawaii is always on my radar. I try to go every year. I have lots of people I like to hook up with over there. I've been going to Hawaii now for over 10 years. I've been to Hawaii 11 times. So over the last maybe 20 years, I've gone 11 times. So I love it there. If I couldn't be here, I would definitely be there. It's a wonderful place. I love it there. Somewhere else I would love to go. I mean, Mexico has always been on my radar. I haven't really ever surfed in Mexico, which is I really want to go there one day. I'd like to find some cool place to go down there and hang out for a week or so and see what Mexico is all about. I've heard great stories, so that's definitely on my radar. I've been to Peru. I've surfed in Lima, Peru. Surfed on the East Coast, up in the New Jersey area. When I say surf, I bodyboard. I don't really stand up surf. I only stood up on a surfboard a couple times. I've only bodyboarded, so it's. I stay in my lane. I have no desire to stand up. I grew up skateboarding and snowboarding, so I have that stand up ability, but nah. I also have 2 knee surgeries. Both my knees have been operated on, so that's kind of what drew me to bodyboarding to begin with, because I knew if I was going to stand up surf, I'd probably end up messing my knees up more. And I want to be able to bodyboard forever. So I love the ocean. I mean, it's just something I got to have in my life, and I know if I was going to stand up surf, I'd probably mess my knees up. So yeah. So I mean, obviously South Pacific's on my radar. I'd love to get down there one day. It's just Hawaii's way closer, and it's so good and warm, and just as warm. Love it there. Spent some time on the North Shore. I've been to Oahu and Maui. I haven't really been to the other islands. Those are the only 2 I've been to. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, well, yeah, let me know when you're ready for the next one. Yeah, I'm all about, and shipping to Australia started to loosen up a little bit too. So it's going to be a lot easier to get boards down to Australia. There's been a few people that for a while there through COVID, I just couldn't even ship to Australia. So, but now I know it's starting to loosen up. In fact, Hawaii is so darn expensive to ship there now. It's almost cheaper to ship to Australia international than it is just to ship to Hawaii. It's crazy how much it costs to ship a board to Hawaii these days. Yeah, boy, I saw those pictures you from that that one trip you went on, Glenn. It looked like you really scored some waves. It looked really fun. Yeah, Australia, I'd love to get down there too. I mean, it's all on my radar, but I gotta, it's just time and being away from being able to make my life happen here. So you got to balance it all out. Well, board innovations. Well, I've been thinking about experimenting with some different cores. I pretty much all the boards I make are Polypro because I really feel it kind of is it's the best, one of the best core. I mean, it really is the best core for no matter what range of water it is. But I think some laminations within the core, instead of it just being a solid piece of foam, maybe taking a thinner piece and another thinner piece, and then maybe what if you laminated a chunk of mesh in between the core instead of putting the mesh in between the slick and the core and the deck skin and the core. You're actually more inside the core for the reinforcement versus obviously in that kind of scenario you might not be able to get stringers into it because the mesh would be in the way of the stringers. But that's one thing I've thought about a little bit is that I know some other guys in the past have experimented with laminating different types of core together. So that may be something else I play around with. And obviously stringers. I'm really trying to experiment with some different diameter stringers and different types of stringers. Like the solid carbon fiber is something that I took to on my last Hawaii trip. I took actually last 2 Hawaii trips. I've taken this board number 212. It has solid carbon fiber stringers. They're not hollow. They're like solid rod stringers. So I think that there's something to a solid stringer versus a hollow stringer that kind of interests me. And because of its carbon fiber, it's way stiffer than the epoxy fiberglass that I could normally use. I can get epoxy fiberglass solid rods or hollow tubes. Same thing with carbon fiber. I can get any of those, but the carbon fibers are real expensive. They're like at least 3 times the cost for just each individual stringer. So it raises the cost of the board, and usually it doesn't really. Is it worth the extra cost? Yes. If you're curious enough, it is definitely. So, and I'll tell you, the board that I have, the 212, it has 3 stringers in it. And so, I usually ride home, I ride a single stringer up the middle, but I've taken some double stringers and V stringers to Hawaii. But this last one, I was like, okay, well, if I don't use hollow tubes and I put solid carbon fiber stringers in there, but then I shrink the diameter. So instead of doing 3/4 inch diameter stringers, I would do I think I did a 3/8 inch is what I did. Yeah, I think 3/8 inch solid carbon fiber is what I did. I have some of that stuff right here. Let me just grab it real quick. So, like what you see here is this is a standard stringer, 3/4 inch epoxy fiberglass. And you can see these are the end caps that people are curious. Oh, and I know sometimes people get water in the stringers. It's just something that happens. But over time, I've learned I've got these little caps that I've been using, and they seem to be helping a lot to keep the water out of the stringers. But these are the stringers that I have in my warm water board, and you can see it's a solid tube or a solid rod versus a hollow tube, and this is carbon fiber. Like I said, this is epoxy fiberglass. This right here is just a little bit less stiff than this, like over a long piece. I did some flex tests with it. So this is but what I did was I took 3 of these instead of having a single stringer up the middle and it radially flexes like we talked about before. I put 3 of these in like a triple string, full length triple stringer, and I'll tell you what, I really liked it. I do. I really like the setup. It just isn't cheap, but it feels good to me in warmer water. So I don't know. And my most recent board, the 420 board, has a combination of it has a short, long, short setup, but it has these on the outside, this in the middle. So it has one over here like a solid rod, one over here on the solid rod, and a long one through the middle of a hollow fiber. I haven't even ridden that board yet. I'm waiting for a decent swell around here before I take it out. I'm still riding 329. I've been riding 329 now for a while. Yeah, definitely, Ross. There's some interchangeable stringer systems called the ISS. ISS is a patented technology that Mez has, and it comes out of the Brody factory in Indonesia. So really the only place in the world where you can get an interchangeable kind of stringer system, because it's patented, is out of the Mez factory. So if you see a board with an ISS system, it's made out of the Mez factory, and he has the patent on it. So I'm not really interested in changing out a stringer, because I think that you should have the proper stringer set up for where you're going to ride that board. That's why I have warm water board and I have a cold water board. Obviously if you had a stringer you could just switch out and all of a sudden it's stiffer, there might be something to that. You could take one board and a bunch of stringers. And that's the theory behind it, is you can have one board, but you can change a little bit of the flex. But the thing is, it's only a single stringer. That system's only a single stringer. You only can change it, and you're only going to get that one radial flex around the center stringer. But you can make it stiffer, but it's still just a radially flexing stringer. There's not a multi-type of system that happens with ISS. I actually do have one. I have the very first tubes ISS board upstairs. I got one on the very first load of tubes board that came over from Mez factory. Had ISS, and I actually have one upstairs. I might break it out and show it, but and that was always one of my concerns too. But what it does is it has a sleeve. Mez puts sleeves down in the inside of the board that helps keep the water out of the core. So even if water gets in the hole into that cavity where you can change the stringer out, all you got to do is pull a stringer out and turn the board down, and all the water will drain out. So even if water can get in, it shouldn't get into the core of the board on the ISS system. At least that's the way I understand it. And that's the way that my board upstairs looks. So, I mean, it seems, Mez put a lot of time and energy in developing it. He knows what he's doing. He's a genius when it comes to this game. I mean, he makes a lot of boards for a lot of brands. So, yeah, he's got it going on. He knows what he's doing. I've learned some things from Mez for sure. A lot of respect for him and what he does. So yeah, I don't know how many. Seems like we got 7 people in. That's not too bad. Why don't we something I thought would be fun to kind of do is that where's everybody from? Why don't you just drop a comment in here and we could kind of see where everybody's from. I'm here in Morro Bay, California. That's where I live. That's where my shop is and everything. But if everybody just drops in kind of in the comments section, like just tell me where you're from. I'm kind of curious just to see what kind of reach I'm getting on this very first one. I hopefully I can start doing this every week and we can get bigger crowds and more questions and spread a bunch of knowledge around so people can be more knowledgeable about how boards go together and the features and stuff. That's kind of what this is all about. I really wanted to kind of do this. I think it could be a really fun thing for a lot of people, and we can get a little community together of people. And who knows, these kind of situations. Hey, Matt. Cool. Yeah. Dana Point. Right on. San Luis Obispo. That's where I could throw a stone from here to get there. Yeah, let's see. So somebody was asking about the foam that I'm because I don't know if people have been following, but I've been just in the last like 2 months I lost my core supplier that I've been buying from since day one went out of business. The manufacturer of that foam's still around, so I just have to get it through a different distributor. And in the meantime, I'm trying to work out a deal where I can start buying directly from the manufacturer. That's my goal. It's the same material, it's just coming through a different supplier. So I have some that's supposed to be coming mid next week, and then I'll be back making boards again. So I've had about a week and a half, 2 weeks off where I haven't had any core. I'm trying to work out the supply chain issue, but I'm not done making boards. I have a huge order coming from overseas right now, bottom slick and some other colors and stuff. So I mean, by within the next month, I'm going to be just loaded up with new material and be ready to go all the way through the winter. So I'm hoping, I know it's the same core, so I expect it to be just as good as the last stuff. Like I said, ultimately, I'd like to just buy from the manufacturer. I'm really working on that. I want to try to cut out the middleman. You keep the board prices down too, because the new supplier, I'm sure it's the same foam. I know it's just coming from the same place, but obviously the new people are charging me more, so it's not helping board prices. So I'd really like to try to work out from the manufacturer, so I can, I don't want to raise prices. I want to keep stuff affordable for people. So if there's a way I can cut out a middleman and save some money for my customers, I think that's kind of good business. Well, it managed to go 37 minutes, so this is working out pretty good. We got enough people in here and had a good little flow of comments. But boy, it would be nice if we can get even more people in here. So if people have right on Inglewood, hopefully we start getting more people in here and doing this. And if you guys have friends or you encourage people to get in here, and we can get chats going about whatever. I'm willing to talk about whatever. So. I'm getting that teal. The teal's coming back. I know that's so popular. I had that before. The teal's definitely going to be back. I got teal bottom slick. I got teal skins. So there's a couple other colors coming too. So I'm really excited about the new color range that's going to be around this fall. Has business gotten better since you took the break? Business. I'm not sure which business. I mean, I have a few boards that are already kind of on order that are already in line. As soon as that core lands, I got a few I'm going to be working on. So, but business is good. I'm not complaining. I'm as busy as like I said, I'm only one person, so I'm as busy as I like to be right now. A few 3 to 5 boards a week. That's great. That's a great flow for me. I mean, I do other things too. I have other businesses, so and I juggle quite a few different things. The Ronin bodyboards thing is just one of the businesses I have. I've had my own architecture business for 15 years. So I do a lot of home designs and woodworking and architecture and all kinds of stuff. You might be able to see, I got wood, sandpaper, and there's all kinds of stuff. I've been doing woodworking my whole life. So yeah, Adam. Yeah, Adam asked if what's my connection and who taught me to shape. But I moved to Morro Bay in the early 2000s. I'd never really surfed. I was a licensed diver, but then I started getting custom boards from tubes almost right away when I moved to town because I knew I wanted to get into surfing. And I went down to a local surf shop, bought my first board was a Wave Rebel that I just bought from the surf shop. It was like $40 or something. So they were like, hey, why don't you go over to Tubes? They're in town right over here, and they do all kinds of stuff. So I walked in the factory over there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, yes, this is awesome. And so from day one, I've ordered Tubes customs boards, and so I was just rode boards for them for about 10 years, and custom boards from them for 10 years or so. And there's some bio stuff on the website that kind of explains a little of the history, but then after a while I got a chance to get in there and start helping out a little bit in the shop because I was walking in there with some stuff that I wanted to do on my own personal boards that they were like, why don't you just come in and do it? You can do work on the tools and stuff. Why don't you come in and do some of these deck contours and things because we're so busy doing production stuff, we don't have time to do this, what they called my crazy wacky ideas and stuff. So they opened up the shop, and I'm forever grateful. I got my foot in the door there, and I learned so much working at the Tubes factory. Buzz is an absolute genius. I have so much respect for that guy. He has taught me pretty much everything I know when it comes to bodyboard building. Mez had a little influence as well, and how he put some boards together. There were some things that I learned from him too. But you know, Buzz is an absolute legend in our sport, and he deserves a lot more credit for bodyboarding than he gets. I think he's an absolute legend. So yeah, I learned how to shape boards at tubes, and so over time, I just ended up having to leave tubes because they wanted to go in a little bit different direction, and so I wasn't done making boards. I knew that I knew that the demand for custom boards is going to be there because I am, like I said before, I'm my own customer. I still wanted to get custom boards, and the only person that was going to make my wacky ideas was me. I mean, I could have tried to gone to JL or Pete Custom X and see if those guys would build something that was come out of my head, but it ultimately was just easier if I built my own stuff. And I had the ability to do it. It definitely was a curve getting my shop set up, but once I did, you can obviously see the stuff I do. I'm in a pretty good place right now where I have the control to build what I want. And it's awesome, and helping people make their dream board come true. Really, I'm all about that. I love to do my best to make the best board I can. I'm not trying to say my boards are the best. I never said that. I just try to make the best board I can for an individual. And there's a lot of good boards out there. So they might not have the features that my boards have, or the combination of features, and being able to tweak this or add this color. So that the custom thing is the only direction I will really ever go with this business. If I ever had to try to get boards overseas, I would just I wouldn't do mine. I would just close it down. I don't think I could let that happen. I love the control of where I'm at now, so I'm going to keep on doing this for as long as I can. Oh yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, Matt. I surf out at A Beach right down the street here, like all the time. I'm the only bodyboarder out there most days. So if you're ever around in the area and you want to get in the water, just hit me up. Hit me up through the Instagram or send me an email or something. Yeah, I'm always down to go out in the water. I'm out there all the time. Yeah, Adam Buzz is the man, no doubt. I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. He's a problem solver like I've never seen in my life. I've seen a lot of people get overwhelmed by a problem, and Buzz just dives in like I've never seen. That guy is a problem solver. He can take anything and figure it out. He's a wizard. Pros and cons of beaded Polypro from Nick. Yeah, Nick. Well, there's plenty of pros if you ask me. That's probably why they call it Polypro. But no. But joking aside, Polypro really is it really is one of the best cores that I think that's out there that at least I can find, and that's why I only want to use the best materials I can find. As far as the pros is that it really has great flex and recoil. Most the standard 1.9 Polypro that I use for all of my boards, and a lot of other brands use that same core 1.9 Polypro, beaded Polypro, not expanded Polypro. There's kind of two different kinds. They don't even really make the expanded Polypro anymore. That was back in the day. They had a lot of expanded Polypro boards, but I think they had some problems with the gases and stuff, and so they're not making the expanded Polypro anymore. Now cons. Sometimes some water. Polypro. Sometimes when you get the cores, everybody thinks Polypro is waterproof. Okay, but the thing is that the core sometimes is not completely solid. And if you look at it really close, sometimes there can be little air gaps in between the beads. So what happens is if God forbid water gets through a seam or whatever, and or through a leash plug or a bumper, or somehow if it gets in, water can get into those creeps and crevices of the core and can kind of waterlog it out a little bit. So that, if anything, that's probably the one negative that I can find in Polypro is that sometimes water can get in and waterlog the core out just a little bit. So other than that, there really aren't any cons with Polypro that I can see. It's super easy to work with. yeah, there just really isn't any cons. Another con is I don't think people really understand what I call the sandwich of materials that happens. Throughout the lamination process, Polypro sometimes isn't the easiest to bond polyethylene skins. So you got Polypro core, but polyethylene skins. So all the skins that go around a bodyboard are polyethylene. And what happens is, you hear the term heat lamination. So what happens through the heat lamination process is you're bonding the materials with heat, whether it be forced air or just an infrared heater. There's a few different styles of laminators out there, but that's the thing is you're heat bonding these materials together. And what happens is if you have a Polypro core and polyethylene skin, those two materials won't bond with just heat. You got to have some other type of adhesive or something that makes those things stick together. So there's a few techniques with the modern sandwich of materials that kind of solve that problem. So that I think as far as the sandwich of materials go in the lamination process, it can be a little tricky working with Polypro versus like a PE core. Like the traditional PE core is what you can, if it's a PE is polyethylene. It's the same type of foam as the skins that go on the top of the board. So you can just bond a polyethylene skin to a polyethylene core with just heat. You don't need any other kind of adhesive. So so it's a little more complicated of a build with a Polypro board, but I think you get a way better end product with a Polypro core board versus a polyethylene board. But like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's just different. So whatever you're into or whatever kind of flex you like, there's no right or wrong. But I personally just prefer Polypro boards, and it's really the only material I want to work with because I feel that you can reinforce depending on the stringer setup or whatever. You can still get a really flexy Polypro core. People say, oh well, in cold water Polypro core gets too stiff and it doesn't flex. Well, I ride in 55-degree water all the time, and all I've ever ridden was Polypro boards, and they flex just fine. So it just depends. I mean, it's always down to the stringer setup. So if you want to flex your board, maybe you instead of going with the 3/4 inch stringer, you go with a 1/2 inch stringer, or so then it's going to be a little bit more flexy. Maybe don't put mesh on a board, so then in a way it gets a little bit more flexy if you want to use a Polypro core and still have flex. So I don't know. I'm a fan of Polypro, and depending on the reinforcing, it can work in warm water or cold water. It's a really versatile core, and I can get mine American made. All the Polypro I use is all made in America. So I really want to stick with that core for as long as I can get it. I do have a few pieces sitting over here of a couple different kinds of cores, and I can break them out and show you if you're interested. But as far as like characteristics and how they flex and stuff. Yeah, exactly. I just straight mesh too as another option, and no stringer. Yeah, I mean, it's custom. You can pretty much do whatever you want, but just realize that sometimes that stringer really helps keep the board nice and flat too. That's another. I mean, not only does it add recoil to the board, makes it pull back to shape with your flex if you have a stringer in there. But if you take that stringer out, obviously you're going to lose a little bit of that recoil back. And it also sometimes won't be as flat of a board because that stringer helps keep the core flat. Oh, gosh, I'm constantly thinking of new ideas, but I can't. JT Solbergas, if I have any features or designs that I might want to try that I haven't had a chance to try yet. I'm constantly blown away with the ideas that my customers come up with. That's what really blows me away. I'm always trying to do something cool and something outside the box, but I get hit up because I'm willing to entertain all these wacky design ideas. I tend to get all the wacky design ideas from all these people, which is awesome because I get exposed to things that I wouldn't even really think about, and like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's try to build that. I don't like what ifs. I like to explore the idea and see how it goes. Some things work, some things don't, but you never know until you try. So I'm willing to try anything if I think I can build it. So, I'm not much of a drop knee rider. I am more of a prone rider. So as far as prone ideas go, well, I think my latest board, the number 420 is I definitely did some things with that board that I had been wanting to try. And so I'm always looking to try new things. What if? So I don't like what ifs. What's my thoughts on standard channels and crescent tails versus the new age scallop tail and Apollo channels? Well, Andrew, if you'd have been here when I started, late to the party, bro. I explained a lot of that early on in the feed, so you might have to go back and watch that. Besides that, you already know the answer, dude. We've talked so much. You know how I feel about standard channels and clip crescent tails. I think he's trying to press my buttons. Is that what's going on here, Andrew? Oh well, my thoughts are it's better. I mean, at least for me, like I know there's a benefit in the performance of a board. It increases the performance of a board. Longer channels versus standard channels. Standard channels, I'm not a very big fan. I'm not. I just think that it can be a lot better. I'm not trying to. I know a lot of people are really attached to the standard channel clip crescent thing because that's been what people have been riding forever. But once you ride a multi-channel board and maybe something that's a little bit like what I do with the scallop tails, it really does open up some oh wow, I didn't realize that the board could hold this well and not side slip out on you in a steeper wave face, or like if you're going through a turn, man, when you sit back on the tail and crank a turn, that scallop tail and how the channels work, a multi-channel board, it just tracks and holds. You can throw so much more water too. It just grabs water and hucks it on a big turn. And on a steeper wave face, when you get into something that's super steep and like a clip crescent tail and a standard channel is going to be sliding out. And what happens with that is that when it starts sliding, you're losing control. So now in order to gain control, you got to start sinking your rail or your tail in harder so it bites. And what happens when you do that is that it's just a speed killer. All you're doing is losing. And in order to gain control, you're sinking your stuff in for control and you're just losing speed. Where if you can be riding more on top and leaning forward more, you're going to be going faster. And and the modern channels and scallop tails will just hold and track their direction so much better than a standard channels and clip crescent tails. So I'm a fan. I mean, I'll still build a clip crescent tail. They're super easy to build. I mean, it's probably the easiest tail to build. That's probably why there's so many of them out there. It's because it's, as far as time goes, it's the easiest one to build. You can build them super fast. Same thing with the standard channels. I can shape a standard channel in about 3 minutes. A full 3 to 6 or a full 6-channel board can take me 20 minutes to 25 minutes to get it really clean. I have some videos online that kind of show on here on YouTube that kind of show the process of me doing some of the 3 to 6s and the standard channels. So, but what I don't show is there's some sanding that still happens after I use the Sure planes that you can see me in the videos. There's still a little bit more touch on fine sanding that happens after that. Surf trips, yeah, definitely. I'm hoping to go to Hawaii again this winter. I'm very blessed to have been there quite a few times, and I can't wait to go back. I love it. I love it in Hawaii. I always have a good time. Usually go in the winter. I've been to Maui in the summer, and I kind of got skunked. And it was beautiful, and warm, but the waves weren't that big. I'd much rather go in there in the winter. But I've been in the North Shore in the wintertime quite a few times, so I really do love the North Shore. Last time I stayed with Jordan Stollard, I know some of you guys might know his name, but he's an awesome guy. I really like Jordan. He's a super cool guy, so knowledgeable about boards. So what's next for Ronin bodyboards? Let's see. Why is board 19 so incredibly light? No, I think 419 probably, Nick. I think 419 just has the regular stringer in it, I believe. That's Sterling's board, right? I believe. But yeah, that just has a single stringer in it. That board's really similar to like my boards that I ride all the time. 3 to 6 channel, scallop tail, channel rails. Why is it light? I don't know. It's Polypro and a single stringer is pretty good as long as you keep the water out. Water gets in, it's going to start getting some weight. But really, it doesn't really affect the performance of the board too much. If you do get a little bit of water in the core, it really doesn't affect the performance. Just add a little weight to the board. It really doesn't. It's not going to make it go slower. Like I said, the speed comes from the wave, not the board. So let's get that straight. Nicaragua might be fun. Yeah, especially summertime. You could probably get some waves down there. Andrew, innovative board shaping. What's next? Well, what's next is the next 3 customs that are on order. That's what's next. Yeah, I think I do have the forms over here in the book. Let's see. Yeah, it just looks like some prone boards. 3 to 6s. There's a 3 to 5. One's going to Puerto Rico. One's going to Southern California. And Nick's board's right here too. So his little DK, which has Clip Crescent standard channels. You want a dog on it, but hey, man, ride this one, but then go back and get a proper channel board. You'll be blown away by how much better a multi-channel board works versus standard channels. But hey, we all get nostalgic and know what we're used to and what's comfortable. So there's nothing wrong with going with what you know and what's comfortable. But don't be afraid to be a little curious and experiment a little bit. What number am I on? Shoot, I think I'm 430. I think I'm up to 430 is the next one in the queue. Yeah, 430, 431, 432 is all kind of the next set of boards, next round of boards I'm building. Yeah, I can't wait to hit 500. It's kind of been a little benchmark I've been looking forward to, is number 500, and I might have to hold on to that one for myself, just because I have number 1. Obviously, that's a lot of people don't know is that the first 5 Ronin boards were actually built in the tubes factory. So I have one of them. Jim Ledbetter has one of them. How do I get 456? Well, you send me some messages and we get the details worked out. That's how you get 456. Yeah, no problem. You got it. Just hit me up through Instagram or email, and we can work out the details. And I have people that reserve certain numbers all the time because, like I said, Jim Ledbetter has number 3, and he has 103, 203, 303, 403. He has all the 3s, so that's kind of his thing. So I know every time I get to a 3, it's just Jim Ledbetter's also does all my screen printing. He made these shirts. He has the Anxious Energy brand right here too. So yeah, he does all my screen printing and does all that stuff. Super awesome dude. He rides down at the Waco pool. He lives close to Waco now, so he's in the Waco pool like all the time. So yeah, hit me up if you want 456. I'll in like Rio. Rio is also the U Salty guy. You can kind of see here. He gets all the either the 50s or the zeros. He really does have a lot of those. So yeah, I have people that request certain numbers. I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's not a number I personally want or somebody already has requested. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. We can work that out. Just hit me up. We can figure out the 456 board. We can make that happen. What inspired you to make the mini besides the orders? Well, geez, minis are great. They're really fun to play around with. Especially in the shore break, they're really fun. I've done some transfers with mine, but what inspires me to do my orders for sure. But I still want to. I think mini boards, you see a lot of them out there, and they don't have a lot of detail into them. They're just kind of like a cookie cutter Clip Crescent. Maybe you get a V-tail on some of the Whompers and stuff, but there's not a lot of features that happen on a lot of the mini boards, and the quality is sometimes not so good. They use EPS cores, which is like styrofoam, and they use single rails and the skins they put on it, and then they use HDPE bottom slick versus. So I try to use all the same materials I put in all my high-end customs into my minis, and I try to just pack them with details like I would one of my big boards. So yeah, I want to make boards you can't find anywhere else. I've done some copycat or like mini boards that were like the same as their big boards for like a parent and child kind of situation. Yeah, I've done a few orders like that with people, so yeah, I'm willing to do that. It's kind of cool to be walking down the beach with your board and having your kid have the same board but just smaller. I think that's a really cool thing. So yeah, I'm definitely willing to do some minis and that are copycat styles or clones of a bigger board. Yeah, we just hit the 1 hour mark, and I told myself I was going to do this for an hour, and I think we did pretty good for the first one. I'm pretty stoked on everybody that came out and commented, and let's try to make this thing happen once a week and get some people together and spread some knowledge. That's what this thing is all about. So I think that I'm getting close to probably signing off, unless anybody has any last questions you want me to get at today. And like I said, I want to try to do this once, maybe on the Fridays, if it works out for everybody, unless I get some comments saying that, oh, geez, it would be better if it was on a Saturday night. I'd be able to make it there, or a specific time. I'm willing to adjust a little bit to do this stuff, but I just thought that maybe a Friday night might be a good place to start. So, all right. Well, I really want to thank everybody that showed up. Yeah, Russ, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you being here and everybody else showing up. And, we had a few people here, which is cool. And I think we can do better next time. So let's try to get some other people on next time and make this thing grow a little bit and spread some knowledge. Thanks everybody for coming out, and I appreciate all the support, and make sure have fun in the water and keep the boog alive, man. Keep doing what we do. Appreciate all the support and all the comments, and if you got any other questions, I'm going to put this feed up in the YouTube stream, and we can comment on it and make stuff. And if you think of something you didn't see or we didn't get to talk about, you can comment there, and I'll try to watch comments and answer questions as soon as I can. And then, like I said, I'm going to try to do this every week. So thanks for everybody for coming out, and see you next week. Ciao for now.